Tokyo Game Show was well underway and has kicked things off with some rather interesting looks at upcoming popular titles, such as Death Stranding with a new trailer and 49-minute gameplay demo. Yakuza 7 shows off a new story trailer and a brief glimpse of what its new turn-based gameplay looks like. Capcom teases a new team-based Resident Evil. Also, remember Cube World? Neither do I, but let's talk about what happened after all these years in this deep dive edition of The Rundown. Alright, I know many of us have forgotten what Cube World is, as it's been nearly 6 years since the alpha debuted. To put it simply, Cube World is an open-world procedurally generated voxel-based RPG, developed by Picorma, a team of 2. When the alpha was released, the dev promised frequent updates building upon the foundation until the game was ready for official release. Users had to buy into the alpha to play the game early, after which the developer fell silent. Snippets of video were released to showcase some improvements and changes that were on the way, but even those stopped after a while. Years had gone by without updates, and some had written it off as a scam. Now, 6 years later, the dev has announced an official release date and details what happened during those years of silence. Lead developer Wolfram Van Funk, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, explained that after the alpha, the website suffered a serious DDoS attack, which had a mental and emotional effect on him. It traumatized and broke something inside of me, he explained, and that he had been dealing with anxiety and depression ever since, leaving him feeling that no matter the amount of work he did on the project, it just wasn't good enough. This, on top of being a perfectionist and not wanting to really talk about it, was what kept his silence all these years. The game, having now resurfaced, has a release time frame of late October or early November, and purchasers of the alpha will receive a Steam key on the day of release. This was an interesting read, and I can't help but feel for the guy when he finally opened up to talk about what he was suffering through. Making video games is a lot of hard work, even more so when your ambitions are bigger than the team you have working on it. And the anxiety and the fear of releasing a project to the public to hear their opinions on it can be insurmountable. Heck, I have a hard time releasing video content for very similar reasons, right down to the perfectionist nature. It can create some really beautiful work, but it is emotionally draining when you are the problem holding yourself back. Here's to hoping the release goes smoothly and that the positivity he's received since coming out about mental health problems helps push him forward with supporting the project long after its release. Last week, Sega revealed Yakuza 7 at last, and also revealed a major change to the franchise: turn-based combat. Something that may leave fans with mixed feelings. They also revealed the new protagonist and a bit of his backstory and his journey to Kamurocho. During this announcement, they also revealed that the game would be coming to the West in 2020 under the name of Yakuza Like a Dragon. At this year's TGS, Sega debuted a new trailer showcasing more of the game's turn-based combat, featuring support and attack skills and some really over-the-top animations that would normally be seen in the previous game's heat actions. The trailer also showcased a handful of mini-games players can expect throughout the game, such as Dragon Kart, Patchy Slots, and Boring Movies? Along with a slew of side characters, many of which fans of the series will be familiar with. As a Yakuza fan myself that has played nearly every game in the series, I really dig the idea of them taking it in this new direction, and I feel like turn-based combat opens up the possibility of being able to see far more original heat action-based animations, as some of the later entries started getting really stale and not as wince-inducing as the earlier games. And call me crazy, but I'm excited to play some of the Patchy Slots, as it appears one of them even features Fist of the North Star. I also wonder why they decided to drop the 7 for the Western release. This week during TGS, Capcom finally revealed their new Resident Evil title under the name of Project Resistance. The game is slated to be a team-based asynchronous multiplayer survival horror game with 5 players, 4 being part of a team, while the 5th player is the mastermind. Players must fight their way through a host of locations against a plethora of familiar Resident Evil creatures, such as the Licker and zombie dogs, all of which the mastermind has the ability to summon and place around the map as they watch players progress or fail through surveillance cameras. Capcom announced a closed beta test for the game in Japan for early October. No closed beta details have been announced for the West just yet. Is Capcom digging into the well for Resident Evil that got them into hot water in the first place? I mean, in my opinion, the series went off the deep end the moment they started including online multiplayer. This almost feels like a cycle repeating in a sense. However, the footage shown does indeed look interesting, and the concept sounds like the Left 4 Dead sequel we've always wanted, where a player now has the ability to control what gets sent your way instead of an AI. Hell, they even get to control Mr. X, of whom has become the most terrifying enemy of 2019. I'll be watching this one closely as it develops. In our last bit of news this week, Sony and Kojima Productions showcased yet another trailer for Death Stranding at TGS, this time including a 49-minute gameplay demo. The trailer breaks down exactly what Sam Bridges' actual goal is in the game, which appears to be linking cities of America together from East Coast to West. The demo runs down the various tools you bring with you to help Sam complete his goal. It also showcases a cargo system that allows the player to determine just how many tools Sam can take with him as he travels across vast and rocky landscapes. Also shown was the game's online connectivity component, where players can leave units or tools behind for other players to find and use on their own journeys. There's also a like system where players can commend each other on the usefulness of the tools they leave behind by leaving likes. Because in the age of social media and the internet, it's likes or nothing. There's also a bathing system where Sam can take showers at the bases he arrives at or hot springs that he finds along his journey. After years of cryptic and completely vague trails of information about what to expect, I have finally graduated from not knowing what the hell the game is to being slightly confused on what the game is. And trust me, that's a huge step in this case. Watching the demo gave me a pretty good idea of what the moment-to-moment gameplay is like. Hell, they even show what looked like a somewhat clumsy random boss encounter and the means of how to handle it. Of course, if you're worried about spoilers, I'd stay as far away from this one as possible, as Kojima has a history of showing a little too much about his games as they get closer to release, and I can't see this one being any different. But seeing the general mechanics of the game, such as being able to overburden Sam with too much cargo, and having his actual mobility hindered by it in interesting ways, sounds kind of fun, and combat scenarios seem like they could be interesting as well, as you're not completely helpless in a fight. And that is your news for the week in this edition of The Rundown. TGS, while not as big and bombastic of an event as its European and North American counterparts, it's still worth watching for the gems and information that could sneak by otherwise. For example, the Yakuza 7 gameplay that kind of needs to be seen to understand that the heart of the series is still alive and kicking, regardless of its significant change. Once again, you can find sources to all these news pieces in the description below, along with support and social links such as Twitter and Patreon. And as always, this is Corrupt Ronin telling you to stay sharp, assassins, and I'll see you next time.